I've been watching your channel for a while now, and I figured I'd share my own story. It's about a bar girl I met in Bangkok. I know that most people say if you start getting feelings for a bar girl, then you need to run away and not look back. I did the absolute opposite of that. I think I must have broken every rule in the book, and somehow I ended up where I am now. My story starts around the time Thailand reopened its borders after the whole lockdown mess. I actually landed in Thailand one day before they shut everything down. My trip was only planned for 2 weeks, but I ended up staying around 4 months because they were letting people stay in the country without any visa hassle. Plus, at that time, it was hard to fly back to the UK. I did have a flight back home, but every week it would get delayed another week. At first, it was great being in Thailand on an extended holiday and not having to worry about overstaying a visa. I work online, so my job wasn't affected and life felt good for a bit. Though I did meet some Westerners who were stuck there and did not have an income, so things were getting really tough for them. Then the government started banning alcohol, then came curfews at night, and before long, it felt pointless being there when you couldn't really go anywhere or do anything. I was staying in Bangkok, and it just became a ghost town with all the rules and the curfews. Not exactly the paradise you think of when you think about Thailand. Rent was dirt cheap back then because there were no tourists coming in. I was staying in a nice condo for $200 a month. With that, I still decided it was time to pack up and fly home to the UK until things settled down. I didn't realise at the time it would be over a year before we'd be allowed back into Thailand again. I probably should have just stayed in Thailand because the UK was not much better. It was pretty much exactly the same, the only difference was the weather. While I was stuck back home, I basically worked from my laptop every day and became one of those virtual tourists. Every night I'd watch YouTube videos about Thailand, read travel stories, scroll through forums, and catch up on whatever news I could find. It turned into a habit really. I'd wake up and watch Thailand YouTubers over breakfast. I kept seeing stories about older blokes who fell head over heels for a bar girl. I used to laugh and think, how can they be that daft? I swore I'd never fall for one of those girls or get wrapped up in that scene. I am sure we can all remember what we were doing during lockdown, and I'm sure most of us hated it. Personally, I couldn't wait to get back to Thailand again. After about a year of being stuck in the same routine, Thailand came up with the idea called the Phuket Sandbox. Basically, you could travel to Thailand, but only to Phuket. And to be honest, Phuket was never really on my list of places I wanted to go. But it was better than nothing. You needed a negative test before flying, then another one on arrival, and you had to stay in your hotel room until the results came through. Once cleared, you could wander around, but only inside certain zones of Phuket, Bangla Road being one of them. It sounded like a bit of a nightmare really, a lot of paperwork and stress, but after being stuck at home for so long, I decided, screw it, I'm going. I think if I had stayed home any longer, I would have gone crazy. There is only so many Thailand videos someone can watch before he loses it. I got all the forms, paid for the flights, sorted my Thailand pass, and then just 1 week before I was due to leave, a new variant hit and the world went crazy again. It was just my luck for this to happen. Just as I'm about to get back out there again, then bang, back at square one. I can't remember what they changed about the requirements, but I remember it being more hassle than it's worth and figured I'd wait a bit longer and go once things eased up again. A couple of months later, They relaxed it so after 7 days in Phuket and another negative test, you could travel freely around the country. I don't remember every small rule, but that was pretty much the setup. Fly into Phuket, clear quarantine, then explore. So I booked another flight, and this time I actually made it. So, I finally make it back to Thailand. All my paperwork was sorted, I had my Thailand pass ready, and for once, there wasn't a new variant screwing everything up. I'd never been so happy to step onto a plane in my life. When I landed in Phuket, I had to do another test, and a taxi took me straight from the airport to the hotel. You weren't allowed to leave your hotel until your test came back and it was negative. Here was my first problem. I was told it would come back within 2 days, but mine took a whole damn week. I met another guy on the plane. His came back within the first day. He was out partying while I was still at the hotel waiting. At one point, I thought they might have forgotten me. My hotel was right near Bangla Road, so every night I could hear the music, the girls laughing, the fun, all of it just out of reach. It was really torture. I thought about sneaking out a few times, but on the news, they were arresting people for doing that. Some even got deported or banned from entering again. No way was I taking that risk. It was on the 6th or 7th day that I woke up and had my negative results. Time to get out there and join in with the fun. The plan was 1 week in Phuket, then Bangkok for another week, and then the rest of my time in Pattaya. It must have been 2 hours since getting my results that I was sat in a bar on Bangla Road thinking to myself I'd finally made it. All that time spent at home made the feeling even more exciting. Most of my time there was spent at this Australian bar. I can't remember the name now, but it was one of the only places that had some life in it. There weren't many tourists around, so you had the girls' full attention, which wasn't a bad thing. It was bad for some bars though. They had plenty of girls there, but absolutely no customers. It was one of those places where some bars were heaving with customers, and then next door to it, there would be a bar with 0 customers. It must have been a bad time for some bar owners there. One girl in particular would drink with me every night. We'd sit around, chat, and play this dice game where the loser would buy the drinks. I did bar fine her a couple of times, nothing serious though. Remember, I was the type of guy that would never get serious with a bar girl. I was kind of saving my real fun for Pattaya. Phuket was okay, but felt like you could do Bangla Road in just a couple of days, and then you are done. A week there was more than enough for me. When my 7 days were up, it was time to move on to Bangkok, a place I was excited to visit since leaving, as last time the nightlife was pretty much shut down. My hotel was on Sukhumvit Soi 11, and my plan was to go around the bars there and see what I could find. I'd already been to Khao San Road before the pandemic, and I wasn't much of a fan. It was too crowded, too many backpackers, and it just wasn't my scene. I thought maybe Sukhumvit would be more my pace. First, I went around Soi 11 to a couple of bars there, but there wasn't much happening. I just sat and did a bit of people watching. Next, I walked up Sukhumvit a bit and got to this complex of bars. I'm not sure what Soi it was. I want to say Soi 6, but I really can't remember. There were a lot of bars in this open air complex thing, a live band playing, lots of girls, but again, no customers. And most of the girls looked really bored, but happy when a guy walked in. I sat drinking with one of the girls for a bit, watching the band play, and then I wanted to keep going on my little bar hop. The girl I was with wanted me to bar fine her and come with me, but it was still early for me, and I didn't exactly want to take a girl drinking with me, so I said maybe another time. There isn't much to report about the first night, to be honest, or the next couple of nights. It was actually pretty boring, and the talent wasn't exactly high-end. Anyway, remember when I said I'd never fall for a bar girl? That I was too smart for that kind of thing? Yeah, well, that was about to go straight out the window. One night, I was walking along Sukhumvit Soi 8, heading towards Soi 4, because I planned to spend the night in Nana Plaza. As I passed one of the smaller bars, I noticed a girl playing pool. She looked up at me and motioned for me to come inside. I just smiled, pointed at my watch like I was in a hurry, and kept walking. But damn, she had that perfect smile. Great figure, just one of those girls who make you do a double take. She was by far the best girl I had seen during that trip in Bangkok. As I carried on walking, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Part of me wanted to turn around and go back, but I pushed on and told myself I'd go the next night instead. I got to Nana Plaza, got a beer at the bar downstairs, and just sat alone doing some people watching again, and watching the girls try to get in customers as they walked by. One caught my attention. The girl outside was smacking customers on the backside with one of those plastic paddles, laughing her head off. It looked fun enough, so I went in. Inside, there were loads of girls dancing, but barely any customers. Just me and a few Korean guys. The place wasn't that bad, but none of the girls really stood out. Anyway, I ticked Nana Plaza off the list and I carried on moving. I'd been playing around on Tinder for a while I was in Bangkok, and I ended up matching with this girl who said she worked in a bar. By pure coincidence, she worked at the same bar as the girl I'd seen the night before playing pool. So that put me in an awkward position, because I wanted to go and see the girl from the night before, but I didn't want the Tinder one to think I was there for her. So I told the Tinder girl straight up that I wasn't looking for any paid company or that kind of thing, but I didn't mind stopping by for a drink. She said, sure, that works. So with that said, I ended up going there. I feel a little bit bad that I arranged to meet the Tinder girl only because I wanted to see the other girl, but whatever. When I got to the bar, the Tinder girl came over and introduced herself. I got myself and her a drink and we had little small talk. I saw the pool girl on the other side of the bar, but I couldn't get her attention. After a while, she finally noticed me and started playing pool on the table next to us. She saw who I was sitting with and knew exactly what was going on. We kept looking at each other, giving little smiles, you know the kind. Eventually, she walked over, sat beside me and started talking to me. I got her a drink, asked her name and the other boring questions, and we got into conversation. The Tinder girl quickly realised I wasn't into her, and she drifted off to find other customers. Everything was playing out exactly how I had hoped. I asked the pool girl if she remembered me from the night before. She smiled and said, of course I do. I told her that I'd actually come back just to see her again, and that made her smile even more. That's when she told me her name was June. She was 38, a few years older than me, and had 3 children in Isang. The usual bar girl backstory, really. Although she was 38, older than me, and I normally like girls a little younger than me, she really didn't look her age. I would say she looked 30 at max. At that time, bars had to stop serving alcohol around 10 or 11 PM. I can't remember which exactly. And we were close to closing time when June said to me that she knew a place on Sukhumvit where they sell drinks and we can sit outside on the street with them. She said it was kind of like a secret place, but when we got there, the place was packed. It was no secret at all what was going on. Tables, chairs, music, everyone drinking out of plastic cups. Typical Thailand really. If you've got cash, the rules can bend. That first night with her was perfect. We got along straight away. She even introduced me to a few of her friends from the bar, and we all sat around drinking until like 1 a.m. The Tinder girl was with us also, but she was now with another guy, so I don't think she was that disappointed at all. Plus, he looked like he had a lot more money than me, so she's the one who actually came off better. Before we left, I told June I'd like her to come back to my hotel, but that I understood she was working. I made it clear that I don't judge her job, but it's just not something I was after. She smiled and said she'd come stay with me anyway, no charge. Jackpot. Let's just say sleep wasn't really on the agenda that night. The next morning, we ordered breakfast, swapped line contacts, and she told me to come by the bar again that night if I wasn't busy. I didn't want to look too eager, so I said, I'll see how work goes and then I might come. She gave me a kiss and went on her way. The moment she left, I sat there thinking, what the hell am I doing? I knew full well it was risky getting feelings for a bar girl, but I couldn't help it. All the things I'd heard about, the stories I've listened to, and the state of some of the guys that get taken for everything, I was now walking into that. Part of me wanted to pack up and head to Pattaya early, just to avoid getting more attached. But yeah, that didn't happen. I spent every night that week either at her bar or bar finding her and going around the bars with her. We were together non-stop. She knew I was going to Pattaya, so the night before we went to a restaurant rather than a bar and had a nice date together. She told me she liked me and liked spending time with me, that she didn't want me to go to Pattaya and wished we could stay together. I couldn't tell if it was all part of the game or if she was being real, but I told her that I've got feelings for her as well. I told her that I had to go to Pattaya, but promised I'd come back to Bangkok for her later. Deep down, I wasn't even sure if I really would, but that's what I said anyway. That last night together, we didn't even bother with any stuff. We just talked for hours, lying there, holding each other until we fell asleep. That was it. Bangkok had me now. That next day, we said goodbye and I got a taxi to Pattaya, not really sure where my trip was going anymore. My plan all along had been to just relax, have fun, and not get tied up with anyone. But meeting June threw all of that out of the window. I checked into this Airbnb in Pattaya. Barely any tourists were around, so it cost me next to nothing. I think it was about 3,000 baht for the whole week. There were no bills or anything like that. It was crazy cheap. For the first couple of nights, I went out alone and tried out the bars. It was nothing like I had seen on the videos. Most places were quiet. The lights and the music was still on, but hardly anyone around. The girls looked bored, just sitting around waiting for someone to walk in. It felt a bit sad really, like the fun had been drained out of the place. In all the videos I saw, there were people all over the streets. The bars were full, and it just looked crazy everywhere. The lockdown really hit Pattaya bad, it seemed. There were literally nobody there. It was a ghost city. Though I guess some tourists prefer it that way. I had some drinks, chatted with a few girls, but every time I did, I found myself comparing them to June, and none of them even came close. Even when a girl smiled at me or tried to keep me talking, my mind just wasn't there. I'd find myself looking at my phone, hoping June would text me. It kind of killed the mood for everything else. You know that feeling when someone's stuck in your head and no matter what you do, you can't shake it? That was me. After a couple of days and constantly texting with June, I asked her if she'd like me to come back earlier than planned so we could spend more time together, to which she said she'd love that. So, that is exactly what I did. 3 days later, I was back in a taxi heading back to Bangkok. A stupid 30-something-year-old man leaving Pattaya to go back to a bar girl he met in Bangkok. Yes, that was me. I only had a couple of days left before my flight, but Thailand had something called a COVID visa back then. Basically, a free pass to stay as long as you wanted, no matter what type of visa you was on. It was one of those rare times in Thailand where everything lined up in your favour. No stress about deadlines or flights. They kept extending it, but they never said when it was going to end, which was great, but it also meant we never knew when we would actually have to leave. After talking it over, June and I decided I'd rent a place for a month and stay longer. Prices were still low, and since I worked online, I had nothing to lose. We spent a couple of days looking around different areas before settling on a place in Onut. It wasn't super fancy, but it had everything we needed, close to the food, quiet at night, and easy to get around. We found the place through one of June's friends, and after explaining that I would have to be on a month-by-month contract, as I didn't know when I had to leave, we agreed on $250 a month. A complete bargain if you ask me. After that short meeting with the landlord, we moved in straight away. Well, technically I moved in, but June was there almost every day, so it quickly turned into both of us living together. It was easy, no stress, no pretending, just the two of us getting along like a proper couple. Things were moving fast between us, but I really didn't mind. I loved having her around. She made everything better, and I never expected that when I booked this trip. But yeah, that's how it all started getting serious. Now, the next hurdle was her job in the bar. I mean, it's hard pretending it doesn't bother you when your girlfriend still works in a bar. I'm only human. It wasn't about jealousy, more about knowing what the bar world is like in Thailand. Late nights, random customers, and all the flirting that comes with it. Even if you do trust her, it still plays on your mind a bit. She said she was happy to stay with me, but if she didn't show up to work, I'd need to pay the bar 500 baht a day to keep her going. And then, on top of that, give her a bit of cash to make up what she'd lose. I would already be paying for rent for both of us, the bills, any travelling and dating we do, food, and pretty much everything else. But I didn't want to turn into one of those pay-to-date-me situations. I wanted a real relationship, not one that was built on money. I found a way that made sense for both of us. Since I worked online, I started showing her what I do so she could help me out. That way, she was earning something, helping me out with work, and I didn't feel like I was just handing her money. At first, she was a bit unsure, but once she got the hang of it, she really put in the effort. She'd ask questions and try and learn. Seeing her take it serious made me feel like she actually cared. Turned out, she picked it up really fast and actually helped me make more money. I started paying her a proper salary and everything felt normal. She pretty much became my employee. I wasn't actually losing much money because she was making it back for me. One day, I told her, why don't you just leave the bar completely and we both focus on work instead? If we keep working like this, you will be making more money than working in the bar with no customers. She didn't even think twice, said yes right away. No more late nights or worrying about no customers turning up, just normal days working side by side and planning what to do next. After a bit of back and forth with the bar, I paid the fee and she was officially done with that type of work. From then on, she only went back there if we both went to see her old friends. I ended up staying in Thailand for over a year on that COVID extension thing. Then I did a couple of border runs to Cambodia, which then stretched out my time to around 18 months in total. And every night of my stay in Thailand, apart from like 2, June stayed with me. All her stuff had been moved to my condo, and she started renting hers out to her friend. During that time, we took a trip to Isan to visit her family and kids. None of them spoke any English, but it didn't really matter. They were very welcoming, and it gave me a look at how they live. It also made me realize how lucky I am to have the life that I have. It was simple, but there was still something nice about that kind of life. No rush, no stress, just family and food on the table, even though they had no money. When you see how some of the poor people live in Isan, it's a real eye-opener, and you just don't realize how lucky you actually are. June and I talked a lot about the future, and neither of us had any desire to move to the UK or anywhere else in the West. We both wanted to stay in Thailand, maybe not in Bangkok forever, but for now, it was home. Sometimes we'd sit on the balcony at night, talking about maybe moving to Isan, close to her family, or somewhere quieter down the line. The only real pain was visas. Thailand's system can be a real headache compared to places like the Philippines. But still, we managed to figure things out one step at a time. Like any other couple, we have our ups and downs. If you've dated a Thai girl, you already know they can get really jealous. I nipped that in the bud early on. I told her straight that if she didn't trust me, it would ruin what we had. And thankfully, she understood. Since then, things have been solid between us. Work during the day, dinner together at night, and the odd weekend away when we feel like it. Nothing crazy, just easy living, and that's more than enough for me. It's been a few happy years since we met, and I can only see myself with her in the future. We have spoken about getting married at some point, but nothing's set in stone yet. Only time will tell. So yeah, that's my story. Hope you enjoyed hearing how it all went, and not every story with a bar girl comes crashing down. It's been a crazy ride looking back on it all, something I really never thought would happen to me, and something I definitely didn't plan for. But honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Thailand has a funny way of throwing surprises at you when you least expect it, and meeting June was one of them. Maybe I'll send in a part 2 someday with an update on where things are now. We take each day as it comes, not overthinking the future, just enjoying what we've got while it lasts. It can either go completely wrong and I become another Farang statistic that gets fleeced, or I can be one of the few success stories out there. So far, so good. So for now, it is a success. But, as I said, time will tell. I cross my fingers everything works out the way I hope. Appreciate what you're doing with the channel and keep those stories coming. Cheers.